guys, my name is Nathan Fowler. This is Frankie. He's a huge African spur-pied tortoise, or sulcata tortoise. These guys come from Africa, and he'll get to be probably about 200 pounds when he's done growing. These guys actually do good as pets. People usually buy them a lot when they're little, but you have to prepare yourself. They get really big. Like I said, he can get to be about 200 pounds. I've had him out here in the yard, and he's dug a massive burrow, which is usually how it gets them into trouble. People aren't ready for him. They put him outside when they get big and they get out. Just how I found this guy actually out crossing one of the roads out here on my way into town. But typically, they're just little tanks. If you build an enclosure and they can see through it, they're gonna go right through it. So I make sure to put up walls they can't see through, aren't high enough for them to climb over, and they do just fine. During the winter time, I do bring him inside. I'll put a little heat lamp on him just to keep him warm. Some people, you can leave him outside, but you need to monitor how cold it is exactly going to get. A lot of people let them burrow in, cover them up with hay and leaves, and they can do fine, depending on the area you live in. But I live here in Texas, and this guy's doing just fine all year round. He's done. He's got his mind made up. He's out. That's a good example to show you like what he does in the wild is go in those burrows, and if anything goes after him, tries to grab him, I physically cannot pull him out of that hole. If you try to pull him out of there, he just locks in, and it's like there's no way you're getting him out. This is a rose-haired tarantula, or Chilean rose-haired tarantula. These guys are actually very common pets in the tarantula world. These would probably be number one due to their attitude and their size. These guys don't get very big. This is about it, about 5 to 6 inch leg span for adults. About 20 years is the lifespan on them. Males are going to be a little bit less, let's say 5 years, because all they do is they want to breed and they're going to die. But females are the big sought after prize. These guys eat a wide variety of crickets, mealworms, waxworms, roaches. I live out in the country, so I can go outside and just catch grasshoppers and wild items to give her a variety of insects in her diet. Believe it or not, I actually used to kind of be nervous working around spiders and tarantulas especially, but I had an interest in them. After getting her and actually handling her a lot, I was like, oh, this is a awesome pet, and I'm actually looking forward to actually getting a couple more tarantulas. As you can tell on here with sexing the tarantulas, if you look on the back, these are actually called their spinnerets back here, and if they have long spinnerets, it's generally a rule that that's a female. And the two legs up front, which people actually confuse with legs, and they go, well, it's got 10 legs. Well, no, these actually aren't considered legs up front. These are actually pedipalps, the two feelers up front. When these guys feel threatened, what they'll do is if a predator comes up, let's say a raccoon or something, or even a dog or one of us comes up and harasses this guy, what they'll do is their hairs are real fine, and they can feel the air vibration of anything approaching them. So if a dog or one of us comes up and harasses her, her first line of defense is she's going to arch up and she'll kick her hairs on the back end of her abdomen, kick off all these hairs, and they'll float into the air. And if they get into your eyes, into your nose, into your mouth, it's going to burn really bad. Some people even have effects of it touching their skin. If that doesn't work and the predator is still harassing her, what she'll do is she'll make herself look bigger. She's going to lift up her front legs and she'll show off her fangs saying, hey, this is your last warning. You get any closer and I will bite you. But obviously she's not anywhere near that means of feeling threatened. This guy here is a Texas night snake. These guys, I've collected about 6 of these from out in West Texas. I've had a very fond interest with this species of snake simply because this is actually considered a venomous snake. But they're mildly venomous. The venom would only be affected to small lizards and other small snakes. I don't believe you'd have any effect if this guy was to ever bite you, but I don't think I know anybody that's ever been bitten by a night snake. They're so laid back and docile, and we're not in their food chain source. But if you were to ever be envenomated, I don't think you would have anything slight of a mosquito bump, if anything would even happen. But these guys are really unique. They feed a lot on small lizards, mainly geckos. They'll eat other small snakes even. Even other reptile eggs that they come across, they'll probably try to devour them down. Some have even been reported to even eat centipedes. These guys are nocturnal. You only catch them coming out at night. Most of the time they're spent hiding under rocks or in the yuccas and stuff out there. These guys, when they do, if you do walk across these guys, one of the defenses they'll do for self-defense is they'll curl up into a ball and just start moving around in a ball and kind of just nudging and hiding their head. It's kind of really neat to see it, but this guy won't do it. He's way too laid back. And I've actually got this guy just to switch over to eating frozen thawed pinkies, which is kind of rare for these guys to do. And this next guy I have for you here is a pretty interesting arachnid. This is the vinegar root. I collected this guy from out in West Texas. These guys are very interesting. A lot of people mistake them. They think they're bugs because they only see the 6 legs on there. These guys are actually in the arachnid family, in the whiptail scorpion family. These front, which people mistake for antennas, are actually legs. And he uses those as his feelers. He goes around and feels and tastes everything he touches with those. And the tail in the back is really unique. If a predator was to come up or you were to harass this guy a lot, what he does is there are really fine hairs all the way tapered down his tail. And he can sense any air vibration, so if you come up and you're breathing on him, that tail goes immediately to you, right towards your eyes, pretty much of whatever predator it is. And what he'll do is he'll squirt out an acidic acid, which is vinegar, which gives them that the name vinegar root. These guys are big insect eaters, and as you can see, these huge mandibles in the front, which look like 2 big boxing gloves, or these 2 big claws. What they'll do is pretty much they just reach out and grab a hold of whatever they want and just start mincing it up and devouring it. These guys love scorpions. Scorpions are a big menu on their diet. And these guys will get a little bit bigger than this. I've seen some probably twice this size. But these guys were everywhere out in West Texas. I've heard you can even find these guys out in some of the hill country areas. I've had a big fascination with vinegar since I was a kid. When I was younger, I don't really live out towards the desert, so I've always had a fascination with these guys. They weren't where I lived at. I finally got to go out to West Texas, and these guys were everywhere. And I said, I have to bring one of these back. They were a big fascination to me just because the massive pinchers in the front, and of course they can squirt out like an acidic acid, which I thought was really cool. And they were harmless. You could actually reach down and pick these guys up, and there's nothing that I had to worry about that would happen to me as long as I didn't get it in my eyes. But some people, the acidic acid that they squirt out, affects people differently. So some people might break out or actually get pretty sick. But I haven't had any of that happen to me. But I've just really, really liked these guys. And the fact that I can feed them scorpions, we have a lot of bark scorpions here, so he's happy. And believe it or not, this is actually an albino corn snake. And then people are like, well, it's not albino because it's not white. And it's like, well, the true way to know what a real albino is, if you look at the eyes, you can see that they are pink or red, which is a good indicator to tell if something is a true albino. So there's just some loss in the pigment of the skin, but it still has some of the orange and yellow is still showing. But this is almost what a wild caught animal should look like. Just there would be a lot more darker coloration in here. There would be black on the belly scales. But like I said, this one's albino, so it's kind of missing some of its natural look. The corn snakes have been in captivity for over 100 years. People have been breeding and working with these. So now, anyone who wants to go out and actually have a corn snake as a beginner snake pet, these are excellent snakes to have. But like I said, they've been in captivity for over 100 years. People have been breeding and working with these guys. So now they have these guys in all sorts of different colors and patterns. You can just almost you can imagine somebody has bred these guys to look pretty unique. But I got this guy probably about 8 years ago. This is a little male, so he's probably about done. He's not going to get much bigger than this. The females will get bigger, but the males will generally stay a little smaller. He gets a wide variety of mice, rats. I even give him some birds every now and then, some chicks. So he's doing very well. Not breeding him this year, so he'll be on his own. These guys are constrictors. They do, which means they'll grab a hold of their prey item, they'll constrict or wrap around it, and they'll actually suffocate it. And after the animal dies, asphyxiating it dies, then they'll go back and start at the head, start working it down, swallow the whole animal whole. And then you'll find them laying up somewhere warm trying to digest that meal they just ate. These guys are excellent climbers. They actually climb very well. You'll actually find them up climbing up, and they'll get into birds' nests and rob birds' nests. The main reason why people call these guys corn snakes is if you find a wild specimen, generally like out in Florida, you can find these guys. When you find a wild specimen, they'll actually look kind of like Indian corn, just because there's a lot of orange and black and yellow all over the snake, so they call them corn snakes. As you can see with the tongue, what they do is with the tongue, being a reptile, and all snakes, they all smell and taste the air with their tongues. And you can see he's out cruising around wondering what the camera is right now. And all these people in here trying to figure out what's going on. And snakes have no ears. It's a good way to tell what a snake is. There's no external ears. There's no eyelids, no legs. That's generally what a snake is. Okay, here I have a Mexican alligator lizard, or Bronia graminia. This one's out from Mexico. They only come from 3 mountain ranges, and they're actually pretty protected now because their habitat's being wiped out due to farming, and now there's collectors out collecting a lot of these guys since they're a big fad now in the reptile world. But these guys come from the cloud forest and a lot cooler temperatures than what we're used to. So for a reptile, they hit about 90 degrees, and anything pushing up past that, it can be life-threatening to them. They're happier more in between the 50-degree weather and the 75-degree weather is where they're happy at. Next to him, I have a peacock gecko, which is looking pretty ugly right now. He's kind of in the middle of his shed. He's got a little shed skin on the end of his tail, a little bit on each side of his sides and his legs. So he's almost done shedding. And he'll have a brilliant bright color. It'll be beautiful fluorescent blue down his tail. You can see the red spotting up his spine and the 2 peacock-like black dot eyes on each side behind his back and front legs. Here we have a trio of banded geckos out from West Texas I collected, and hopefully I'd like to breed. That'd be really neat just to have under my belt. Russian tortoise down here I picked up on a rescue. Catching some rays right now, warming up. Here I have 6 containers of my night snakes, my desert night snakes. Underneath on the bottom right, I have an albino corn snake, which you saw earlier. And here I have an enclosure of 3, well technically I have 4 all in total, but there's 3 Trans-Pecos copperheads that I have down here, a trio of them, 2 females and a male. And then another male up here that I'm just holding onto for another gentleman. Well, that's about it. That's all I have for right now. I'm slowly growing, but hopefully you guys learned a little bit about some of the animals that I kind of had to show. Bazinga.